Welcome to Overtime and Inferno, your weekly roundup of all the biggest stories in CSGO. Quicker than Device could come back, make an impact, and then lose. Quick reminder, written previously in the episode, it really helps us. I'm Logan. This is Easy-esque. I almost said Elliot-esque. That would have just been...
People have tried to make me change to that.
There's just been a little too meta,
Easy-esque is too iconic.
Yeah. Parody account.
Yeah, I've had to change my picture as well. It's very sad. So instead it's a picture of me and Dickel.
New social media writer for TLDR.
Very cute boy.
We got a quick show for you today. Not much has happened in the last week. Actually, a lot of small things have happened.
Yeah.
So we're a quick show today. Next week I think we're gonna try and upload early on Wednesday, because of Blast. Blast starts on the 14th, which is the Wednesday. So we're gonna record on Tuesday, I think, because I also have to go on business. So next week's going to be its own fucked thing, but we're going to talk about Blast next week.
We're really trying to get somebody in to talk about Impact.
Yeah, we are. That is an active
delay.
Thing.
But there's been a slight delay because the person who we know who's willing to talk to us, we have to go via EFG, ESL, and Faceit Group. So it's taking a little longer than we thought. But they're interested. So
yeah, don't think that we forgot about that, because we did not forget about that. There's also other news that's coming to Cato, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the other stuff. We'll talk about it all together. All right, let's start. CCT North Europe Series, the second worst named event. You and I had a quick conversation before this about how geography, North Europe isn't complicated.
Europe is a weird shape, and if you try and split it into south, north, west, east, it doesn't quite work. Eastern Europe, I think is reasonable, but then you'll get countries who are like, oh no, we're not Eastern Europe, we're Central Europe. It's like,
so
you're not though.
But it's okay. It's better than Blast naming, so
yeah. What's North Europe? What are we counting as North Europe? Because to me, North Europe would just be Scandinavia.
It's Scandinavia, the UK, depending on the day, and Denmark.
Well, that's the thing.
If you're not doing an Eastern Europe, if you're not doing a Western Europe, then UK counts. Let me.
But the south of England is in line with North France. So how can you be from Portsmouth and be Northern Europe, but be from the north of France and be
Central
somewhere else? Why is the UK not Western Europe? Why is that only North and Central? It makes no sense.
Yeah, there's North, Central, and Eastern, and Southern, but no Western. So what's Spain?
Yes.
What's Portugal?
God, yeah, that doesn't make any sense either. It's not a Southern one.
You're telling me that Portugal, the most Western country in Europe, is Central Europe?
I think one off the top of my head is probably the most southern as well. Is it at least close to the most southern?
Yeah. Okay. Geography aside, we're only talking about CCT North Europe for one reason only. Because normally we would give
lost.
Yeah, Astralis lost. We normally give zero shits about tournaments like this. We use this filler. But today is a day
we have so many cares that we can give. I have a very limited number of fucks. And I like to give them to ones that really matter.
Yeah.
Tournaments, sorry. I like to give them to tournaments that really matter. The CCTs
generally not on there.
I might watch them if I've got nothing else to do, but I don't really
care.
But
when Astralis lose,
I did kind of care this time.
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened, all right? So there was a million teams here. There were 24 teams. The bottom 16 were all teams that had to fight to get into playoffs to then play against 8 teams that were invited in the playoffs. So the invited teams were teams you may know of, like ENCE, SAW, Gamer Legion, Sprout, Astralis, Heat, Movistar, OG. Teams you know. So the rest of the teams were not teams that you don't know. I mean, Endpoint.
I would say the nicest thing you can say about those teams is that you know who they are.
Yeah, well, some of the teams that made it through the group play, you know who they are. Tricked, currently houses former Astralis Opera Lucky, Forza, who we literally just talked about last week with Jerry. Havu, which is the former ENCE minus Alu minus Lexi B. Endpoint, which at one point housed KRB recently, supposedly.
Yeah, weird team.
Weird team. AGO, which is 6-man lineup of Polish, 6-man lineup from Poland. So there were teams that you know. There were a couple you didn't really know, like Into the Breach, unless you've been listening to us talk about Draken. But not the point. Basically,
Even then, like he probably wasn't. You know who Draken is, but you don't know anyone else on that team.
yeah. So basically, all of the invited teams should win. And for the first round, that was not totally wrong. I mean, most of the invited teams won. But the problem was when we got to the second round, when Astralis lost 2-0 to Heat. And let me be clear, not only did they lose 2-0 to Heat, Device was playing. Device played against Tricked. Device put a 1.66 rating up for that game.
Look, I would like to apologize to Astralis because when I asked why Device wasn't playing, and we all thought maybe he's not ready. We had all these ideas, and I was like, it doesn't make any sense not to play him. Mm-hmm. But finally, I understand because they're just dog shit with him, and they didn't want. It's more embarrassing to lose with Device playing than when he's not. At least when he wasn't playing, you had an excuse. Now there's no excuse. So I guess that makes sense.
So the problem, I'm gonna say this, and I know we all know this is true, but I'm gonna state it out loud. The problem is not Device.
No, the problem. Let's be
very clear here. The problem is not Device. Device has come back from a full year hiatus and absolutely shit on both these teams. Device, singularly. BlameF has a high rating, but as we all know, it's inflated because of baiting.
It's not even that he just. It's not even that he bait. I wouldn't mind so much if BlameF actually just baited.
It's garbage time.
He has garbage minutes. He gets points when they don't matter. It's like he gets like the 2 closing kills and the round's already over, or he gets exit frags, or he's backstabbing on a hit that doesn't work.
Yeah,
and it's like you are mechanically one of the best players in the world. I don't mind so much if you want to bait. That makes perfect sense. What I don't like is when he stands on the other side of the fucking map doing nothing because the rest of his team consistently is getting picked off. Like, at some point you have to realize what you're doing isn't working. I don't know, man. He annoys me.
Yeah, BlameF obviously is a problem that is not seen on a stat sheet. We've talked about the eye test before ad nauseum, the eye test is true for the BlameF. He fails the eye test, but he passes the stat test.
I'm sure there's more advanced stats that somebody has to prove a point that we want to make.
But that would require us to look at advanced statistics, and that's too many fucks about this tournament that we're not giving. So.
I like looking at advanced statistics. I'm just not smart enough to make them.
We got to get Harry on this. We'll get Harry to prove that BlameF is just a stat.
He loves BlameF, unfortunately.
I know. We got to find a non-BlameF loving Harry.
Yeah.
Okay. If any of you out there know someone who will do this for us,
we need a stats nerd with a point to prove.
But Mr. didn't perform well, which nobody could have guessed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I completely forgot he was even on.
Yeah, so this is the problem, right? Zip, Glaive, and Mr. are not great players.
Yeah, I genuinely forgot Mr. was playing. I really thought they had a 5th, but having thought about it now, I don't know who I thought that 5th was.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Glaive gets a pass for the most part. Because he'll hover around the 1, but he does IGL and
he's not long had a kid either.
Yeah, Glaive gets a pass.
It's pretty difficult.
Zip is just washed at this point. Like we've said that for a year, but it still is the case.
Zip was he was never really that good. He was just on a team that was constantly winning, so it looked better. Like winning a clutch means more when your team wins off the back of it. And they won more games than everyone else, so it looked like his clutches were more impactful. He was never actually that insane. Like the guy who is the best support player in the world is nearly always judged by people will just say it's the support player on the best team in the world. If you ask somebody now who the best support player in the world, they're like, I don't know, like Perfecto or something. Yeah, because he's on the best team in the world. Like, I don't know. It's always been kind of like he's never actually been that insane. Like he's always been this player. It's just those 0.8s become 1.0s when your team wins.
Yeah. Mister gets a pass as well. By the way, if you were counting passes, he's an academy kid. He shouldn't be playing.
Yeah,
This,
he shouldn't be on this team.
He
But that's
shouldn't
not
be on
his
this
fault.
team. This is not his fault that he's on this team.
Yeah, he shouldn't be here, but that's not his fault.
They should be getting a fifth player.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, go through the list. I don't think any fifth player that they'll reasonably get helps them. In like without switching a major ideal of how this team is constructed. Unless you're gonna force Blame F to be in the star rifle role, and you're gonna get a real entry, and you're gonna tell Zip to start lurking or something. Like, unless you completely switch how the roles of this team work, it won't work.
Yeah, they've got too many passive players, but not enough aggressive players.
Yep.
To my,
That's the thing. They took out one of the most aggressive players in Counter-Strike for reasonable reason.
In and outside
the server for very reasonable reason. But they replaced him with historically one of the most passive oppers.
Yep.
Device made his name by being a passive opper.
He basically invented being boring.
Yeah, like the system that Astralis had was, Device, you're going to hold a corner and you're going to be really fucking good at it, but you're going to hold a corner.
Yep.
And like, that's fine.
That's what Blame F does as well.
But Blame is passive. Device is passive. And no one else on this team fucking matters.
Yeah. Blade's very aggressive. He's just not very good anymore. It doesn't matter.
So, pick someone up aggressive. You know who would be a great fit for this team? Config. You know who they won't sign? Config.
Well, the thing is, I think even if you sign an aggressive player now, you're just going to hang them out to dry because everyone else is going to not be asked. So, like, they'll make a play and Blame F will be like 100 meters away, hiding in a corner somewhere. Device will be holding like mid from spawn, and then what? And then you're relying on Zipnix or Glaive to trade them, and we all know that's not going to happen. Like, this team just structurally doesn't seem to make sense to me. But then I am but a moron. So maybe Glaive can make it. Like, if there's any in-game leader who can make it work, it's probably Glaive. But we've already okay, it's one event in, it's like 4 maps, but there's already some cracks appearing when like Device is dropping nukes and they're still losing.
Yeah, that's again, Device is not the problem. Let's make this very clear. Anyone who thought Device was going to come back rusty, was going to look like shit, they were wrong. Device looked great.
Wow. So far.
Device looked great.
It was against Heat.
And Tricked, but yes. Device, hey, if you're gonna come back and shit on
better
tier
than Lucky,
2,
but we already knew that.
If you're gonna shit on tier 2 players, then you need to shit on tier 2
I mean,
players.
it's definitely a good sign that he has just hit the ground like smashing people. But like, I'd wait until he actually plays against Simple or something before I'm ready to say he's back.
So if you cared about this tournament, if you gave any more fucks than we do, Ents won. They won 2-0 over Havu, who made a really nice run against OG, Forza, and Heat. They kind of got a little bit of a nice not having to play Astralis or Movistar kind of bit after the first. That's it for this tournament. It's whatever. Okay, now on to actual important news. We have 3 different player-coach situations that we need to talk about. First is the smallest of them all. Config, recently mentioned, will be standing in for Heroic at the Blast World Final for Stown.
Yeah.
Apparently, this was a known thing that Stown was not going to be playing in the Premier World Final, V2 final, because of just needing to take a break, that kind of stuff, which totally reasonable. End of a very long year in terms of travel, as opposed to any other year that they've ever had, this Heroic team, because onliners. Config, definitely an interesting choice.
Yeah. Look, he should, like, if there is a team he should pop off on, it's Heroic. Like, can you imagine Cadian talks to Config? He's like, right, our system, anytime there is a 5-second break on CT side, we get aggressive. And Config's face just lights up. It's like, what? I get to just like walk through A main. Yeah, just bring a teammate with you. This is amazing. No more like Blame F sitting in a corner telling me not to push. So Cadian says, "I get to push. This is amazing." Like he actually should do well on this team.
Yeah, and
But
especially if he takes Stoun's roles, I mean, like
yeah,
he's set up for success on this team. If some team is thinking about config and says, "Okay, we can deal with the out of the server shit," but he kind of looked dog water on Astralis, this is the chance to prove it. I hope he does, and I hope there's meaningful outside of the server improvements for teams to
look,
to
it
pick up
should
on
be
here.
it should be significantly harder to get drunk in Abu Dhabi.
You know what? That's a good point. That you know what? That's why they are okay with config. There's no real
Yeah.
way for him to get to a club and get drunk. He can
Yeah.
get to a club, he just can't get drunk there.
It is strange though that this is like Blast World Final, like the big deal, and Heroic are like, oh yeah, we'd already planned to have our best player like take a break here. Well,
Yeah,
but it's like, why don't you just let him have a break during the qualifier for this?
were they not like? Did they maybe think that they weren't gonna get here? And
Well,
he said,
either they don't think Blast is like worth it,
which
um,
debatable,
which,
but okay.
yeah, it's probably a really bad idea. They didn't think they were going to get there, or they're lying and this wasn't pre-planned. Now,
I choose option B or C, but it could go between either of them.
I think it's C. I think it wasn't pre-planned, but they probably had some idea that Stout might need a break at some point because he's had a lot of. There was that whole thing of, like a year ago or so, where it came out. I can't remember the exact situation. I don't want to speculate, but it was like really sad for him. Like he lost somebody close to him, and I don't think he's barely had a break since then.
Yeah,
and I imagine like it will take its toll on him. So I imagine they probably thought it was going to happen at some point, but I don't think they pre-planned to avoid like
the second
like
biggest event of the year.
Final.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's worth like an insane amount of money.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. So either they didn't think they were going to get there, or they're lying.
I choose to believe they didn't think they were going to get there. I think that's the super naive, like underdog story thing. But
I don't think that's possible, though. It's they're one of the best teams in the world. They should have realized.
You'd think. Okay, well, maybe some investigative journalist will come out and tell us that we're right in our speculation.
I don't think it matters. Like, if they are lying, I don't think it's worth knowing that they're lying. Like, I don't think it's worth like prying into it to figure out why he's missing or anything, because it doesn't fucking matter. But it's just like, I think they're probably lying, but so they should lie. Like, they should lie to protect his privacy. Like,
this is a good reason to lie, esports teams. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please follow this.
Look, PR is 50%. It's like it's 50% about telling the truth in a positive way, and 50% about lying in a believable way. That's what PR is.
Insert the NBC. The more you know.
Yeah.
All right. We'll leave the big news for the last bit. Hunden, famed Cypher cam enjoyer, has been unbanned by ESIC. Now note that unbanned by ESIC does not mean he's actually unbanned. Twitter had a very big field day with the Hunden's unbanned, he can go, but Gary's still banned, and Twitter had a very big field day with this. But we need to talk about logistics here for a minute. Because you are unbanned by ESIC does not mean that any event will actually unban you.
Yeah.
ESL, Blast, etc. They all are advised by ESIC, but ESIC does not have any actual authority to ban people. They can advise for a ban from places. Now, Hunden still banned by Valve. Let's make that very clear off the rip. Yep. He is still banned by Valve. That's where Gary's thing comes in. Gary is still banned by Valve, even though he was overturned by ESIC, meaning ESL and Blast agreed with ESIC here and overturned it, I believe. Hunden, Gary can still not participate in a major because it's a Valve tournament. I believe the same rules will apply to Hunden. I don't know if ESL and Blast will actually follow and unban Hunden because
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will because of PR nightmare if they do, but this is not as big of a story as everyone thinks it is because ESIC doesn't actually control shit.
Yeah.
We've said this many times before. They're an advisory board that can advise tournaments about cheating and integrity, but they do not have any power themselves.
Yeah. So, there's that story today about the Russian prisoner who's been released in
Yes,
exchange for
Brittany
an American
Griner and
tennis. Was it
the
tennis player?
no WNBA. Brittany
WNBA. Yeah.
Brittany Griner was released for the Merchant of Death.
Yeah. All I'm saying is, I got unbanned on Twitter, and less than a week later, Hunden got unbanned. That's all I'm saying. Just saying. Like, sometimes you have to make compromises.
So you
No,
were
I
the
mean,
price.
like he shouldn't be. Like he obviously shouldn't be a banned, should he? Like he shouldn't be allowed to play the game. Like he should be VAC banned by Valve. He shouldn't be allowed to be in the server. He should be told to fuck off. Like just get rid of him. Like nobody wants him here. Fuck off.
Like in Gary's situation. Now I'm speaking off my head, so whether all of my facts are right or not, it's a very debatable statement, but I'm pretty sure they are. Gary was overturned by ESIC because it was found out that he had no fucking clue that he was actually doing the Cypher Cam shit.
I believe so, yeah.
Like like he did it, but like
Hunden was deliberate.
Hunden was deliberately doing it.
Yeah.
So like if Gary's not getting unbanned, there's no fucking shot Hunden's getting unbanned. Like if you're telling me this guy did it by accident and then this guy purposely did it and used it to his advantage, no shot.
Yeah, he's just get rid of him. Like, I don't even want to hear, oh, he's unbanned, but technically he's still banned. I don't give a shit. Just don't unban him at all. Get rid of him. I don't want to hear about Hunden anymore. Fuck off. Again, go away. Go ruin somebody else's game.
We've been doing this podcast for almost 2 full years, and our first thing was about Hunden, and we're still fucking talking about it 2 full years later.
Can't he go and ruin Valorant instead? Fuck off. Go away.
He would be accepted in Valorant. How many backbanned people are in Valorant?
He wouldn't. Even they'd think he was a piece of shit. Fuck off, man. Like, I'm so bored of Hunden. Just go away.
He'd be great now. Cypher just got buffed. He already knows how to use the camera. All right, last bit of news, which is kind of bigger. There's a rumor. No, this is very much not confirmed, but it's a rumor that we started hearing last week. We covered very quickly last week, and then it kind of blossomed. Cloud9 is looking to do a minus inters, and in that time, they are currently trialing Forrester, Sanji, and Buster as possible candidates. We talked about last week as that Cloud9 may be doing minus Hobbit.
Yeah.
Because of rumors that we heard about Hobbit to Na'Vi. So let's talk about inters on its own, and then we'll talk about inters as it relates to possible minus Hobbit. This is definitely a move.
It's one of the moves of all time. Inters, look, replacing inters like for like makes no sense whatsoever.
Yep.
If you think swapping inters out for Sanji is what fixes the team,
you're wrong.
We're thinking we look at the game very differently. I'm afraid. Like, I'm not as big a fan of inters as seemingly everyone else on the internet is. I think he's kind of bad, and I think he's a support player because he's bad, not a support player because he's good at being a support player. That said, replacing him for Sanji doesn't do anything because he's still going to be
a support player.
Like, he's still going to not be fragging. Like, all you've done is just sort of you've just changed the support player. It's not going to make that much difference at all. Like I said earlier, the guy who's considered the best support player is just the support player on the best team. It doesn't actually require that insane a skill set. Like, most pro players could probably do it with like a couple months training.
Yeah.
So the only move out of these three that I think could potentially improve Cloud9 is Forrester.
Yeah.
Because Forrester's really good, and that might actually make a difference.
But that's it. Like, that's the only move, like, in my head. I was going to say the same thing, that makes sense for that. The only way you get something. So we have been on this team for a while that they were lacking a little bit in firepower. That Shiro was not the Russian simple that we were promised. He's a good opper. Like, let's be clear. He's a good opper, but he's not.
He's very good at the major, to be fair.
He hasn't been able to consistently show the superstar level that we kind of wanted to see him show.
Maybe. I think that's a little harsh. I think Axile's a much bigger
But my
up
point
and
is
down.
Axile and Shiro, right? And then Hobbit is a good player, but he's not
Yeah.
going to be the one that's going to push you through a game. He's going to
He's
be
a clutch player. I'll say that. He's very
Mr.
good when shit matters. He often pops off.
He is Mr. Consistent. He will be he will get you 15 frags a game every single game.
I don't know. Like he has games where he gets 30, and it's usually important ones. Like
Well,
he does drop important 30s.
I truly believe that every player has the ability to pop off once in a while. I'm just saying consistently.
Yeah, but he always does it when it matters. That's the difference. He does it when it matters. Hobbit does. He's clutch.
Yes.
He's Damian Lillard. It's Dame time.
He's playoff Damian Lillard.
He is.
But they still somehow lack firepower on this team. I believe we've talked about this before.
Because Nafany sucks on land.
Yeah.
That's why. That really is why. Online, Nafany looked like the best in-game leader in the world.
So,
but on land, he just doesn't frag.
They just literally need someone who can press mouse 1 and convert that.
It's just that's why I think Forrester makes sense, because you just move Nafany to a non-fragging position. Like you just stop him ever playing in a role where he actually has to do anything. Give him Inter's dogshit roles. Put Forrester in more aggressive roles, or even Axile in more aggressive roles, and let Forrester play in Axile's positions. You could move Hobbit to Inter's roles, but that seems like a waste as well. But like we've seen, people like to say that swapping a support player for firepower doesn't work, but we've seen enough times now where it actually has. I mean, VP got rid of Sanji, picked up Flit. Okay, they added Fame and Norbert afterwards, but like you see that not having a support player kind of helped there. I guess you could argue Kika became that, but like they just moved a star to support and it worked fine.
Yeah,
you don't need a bad player to play support.
This is one of those that I feel like makes sense, and if it doesn't work, like your worst case scenario here is you are exactly as good as you currently are.
I mean, there is a world where they get worse, but I don't think that matters.
I don't think
you actually you have to aim to be the best. So you might as well take a fucking risk.
I don't think
because you're not going to win anything with this lineup.
I don't think you'll be measurably worse. I think is my big thing. I don't think switching, like Cloud9 is ranked. They're ranked number 8 in the world, right? Right now. Let's say that they're a top 10 team, right? I don't think that switching Inters and bringing Forrester in takes you out of top 10.
No.
I don't think that it brings you down. I think it has the position to bring you to a top 5 consistently.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it takes you out of the top 10. And I think that's kind of has to be your mindset when you're doing a move like this. Is what's my risk? Well, my risk is we will be in roughly the same place we're in right now. My reward is,
even if they get worse, it's like we took a risk and it didn't work, but that's better than being happy with being 8th. It's better than being happy with going out in quarterfinals. Like,
I mean,
I don't really rate Inter, so I welcome any kind of change.
This team, this core has been together for, I mean, with Supra, it's been since, what is it? Nafany, Inters, and Shiro have been together since 2019, end of 2019. Pre-pandemic, this roster.
Yeah.
This full roster with Supra, without Hobbit, is September 2019. We are kind of at a point where you need to make a move because you've hit a ceiling.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, and or buts at this. This is just like ceiling has been hit, and that's okay.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Like
they need to do something. And
this
might not be the most popular move, but
who gives a shit if it's popular if it wins?
Try it. Like, just try something. The other option is replace Nafany. Sorry. Replace Nafany with Jerry or Boomich.
But Jerry's going in AV.
Wow. Get Boomich then.
Or
Electronic.
You look at it, it's just 3 years together, this roster has gotten better, but for the last year and a half, they have been stagnant.
They've plateaued, yeah.
And if you're not going to continue to improve, and you can't say, oh, this team is new or anything like that. Those arguments don't exist for this. You can't say, oh, we need to give them a little more time. They've had 3 years.
Yep.
This is the time to make a change.
Yep, I agree.
So, I think that's going to do it for us this week, unless something came out while we were recording, which is always possible.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Invictus Gaming announced a roster.
Oh yeah, with face crack on it, right?
Face crack, 2 Israelis, and a Iranian.
I'm pretty
Iraqi.
sure 4 of those players is Bibu, isn't it? The Iraqi
Yes.
player.
Yes,
I'm
I'm
pretty
pretty sure
sure
they're
4 of those players were on Gigi Hao.
Yeah.
Gigi Hao International Gaming. They actually had 2 rosters. One of them was a local one.
I'm very
who were
excited
in
about
the Asian
this.
RMR.
I'm very excited about this this roster, solely because I really like IG's branding.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
That's it. That's my only, like, this roster will be mediocre in Asia.
I just like watching face crack because he's one of the dumbest
I mean,
players I've ever seen.
That too. I mean, I don't have an issue with that. I really like IG's branding. They
Yeah.
make cool jerseys and stuff. Like, I don't have an issue supporting this team for an Asian CS team. It's cool.
It's not really an Asian. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not what people think of when they think of an
Correct.
Asian CS team.
But they play in the Asia Minor or Asian
Yeah.
RMR or whatever it's called today.
Like Russia's like kind of Europe. It's kind of Europe, kind of Asia.
I mean, if they're in like
Israel's kind of Europe, kind of
what,
Asia.
where is it? Oh, that's a different city than I thought it was. If they're like in Vladivostok, which is super far east,
Yeah, sure.
then like yeah, okay, that's Asia.
But
GeoGuessr knowledge coming in handy here today.
no, like most of Russia is in Asia, but
But
certainly
it's
Western Russia is.
Most of populated Russia is in Asia, is in Europe.
Yeah. But, like, it is like I'm fine with calling Russia Asia, but like that plus Israel, are like, you know, this is kind of in a middle ground between Europe and Asia. And if you were any good, you could probably play in the Europe RMRs. But
Don't worry about it.
yeah.
They're playing the Asian armor, and that's okay. Iraq, I would definitely consider part of Asia, though. So
Yeah, that's fine.
they got that bit.
It's always fun to see like new nations as well. Like I'm
Yeah.
always kind of
this-
excited when I see a player from a nation doesn't really have like have a good team yet.
I mean, to be fair, Russia obviously has good teams, but we can pick 1 or 2 players out from Israel.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
Sphinx-
quite a few good players from Israel.
But that has not been the case for the last before the
Yeah,
last
yeah,
year.
it's very much developing.
So
yeah.
I'm happy to see more Israeli players
Yeah,
here
yeah.
because we've seen that they actually produce very good players.
I'm told it's Mez Tower, right? I'm told he's very good.
I've already closed this.
I believe it's Mez Tal and Blue Phoenix, if I remember rightly.
That doesn't sound right. It's
Okay.
Moore and Mestal.
Okay, so it is Mez Tal, but I don't know who the other guy is.
Moore with 2 E's and all caps. Important for that bit.
Oh, like Mori.
Oh, I guess so. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm,
okay,
I'm
I've
American.
heard
I
of it.
can't read.
I think Mez Tal's meant to be pretty decent, but I've not watched him play.
All right, we are gonna get done for the day though because Elliot can't talk for very long because of coughing.
Yeah, I'm very ill. This is the best I've been in days. I've been very ill.
Yeah, and I have to get back to work for the day. So we will see you all next week. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at ReedTLDR, at Logan Ramhep, and at AZEsk. You can find us again next week. We should be early next week because we were late this week, but also because of other shit. So hopefully we'll karmic injustice of being late and early will balance each other out. But until then,
Really bad karma being late on your podcast.
Hey, you don't know how karma's going to affect us, man. I don't know what to tell you. Until then, though, we'll see you again next week to talk about Blast. Bye.